I chose La Javeriana in Colombia because my dad went to that university and I was born in the country but moved to Canada at the age of 4. It was a good choice because I had my extended family to help me when needed, but I would say that because of that, it wasn't as big of a leap as if I had gone to a country where I would have had to be completely independent at all times. The semester dates were from July 21st to November 29th. They're called Periodo Académico Semestral and are split into three. I was in the third semester as it is considered there. There were a lot of Catholic holidays, and the biggest break was the Semana de Receso, similar to the Reading Week. The library and gym were all facilities that were available to us without any extra fees. Most of my courses were accepted as part of my Spanish minor, so it was easy to match with Concordia courses. However, as a linguistic student, um, I had I not had my minor, most of them would have counted as electives since there weren't a lot of purely linguistic courses. I advise future linguistic majors to be aware that even if a university offers language courses, they might not offer many linguistic courses. Classes were tight knit and mostly in team groups. They were challenging but not designed to have a bad academic experience as long as the guidelines were followed. The grading was out of 5, and most courses had 3 evaluations called cortes. Because I already had a Colombian passport and ID requirements, the process of entering the country was very easy. Had I entered with my Canadian passport, I would have had to get a visa for a stay that exceeds 90 days. I would say that a student needs a monthly budget of around uh, $2,000 according to my experience in Bogota. I lived on my own while on exchange. It was hard at first because I had always lived with roommates, but I did like my experience because I had much more independence. It was a little hard to find a place at first, but my grandmother was able to get me in contact with a friend of hers that was leasing an apartment. Prior to this, I had looked at student residents like Estudia or CityU and others recommended by the university, but I'm glad with the choice that I went with. The location that I most recommend to live in are Chapinero, where I lived, and Galerías for the relative safety, affordability, and closeness to the university. La Javeriana had a team of students from the university called Out of Town that provided orientation and held activities for all international students. The first events that they held were an outdoors event and a trip to Montserrat. In my first week, we had an orientation day. I made a lot of changes to my original schedule, so I went to the international office often during that time. There were no non academic related formalities to be taken care of upon arrival. However, I did need to send a university email and get my ID. Luckily, I already had a Banco de Bogota bank account set up way before arriving. Getting a SIM card with a phone plan that worked for me was hard, and I had to change my plan multiple times. I recommend visiting the city as much as possible. My biggest advice is to meet as many people from the university and take part in the activities offered because that's how you're able to make the most out of the experience. I didn't encounter much culture shock during my exchange, but of course there were some, especially when it came to personal appearance and beauty standards. My experience has helped me with my social skills and overall confidence. I also find that it has improved my Spanish writing skills. I hope to study abroad again in the future. I love my experience at Universidad Javeriana, and I recommend it strongly to anyone seeking a new experience in a beautiful country like Colombia.